Hello, it's June 30th, 2017. I'm Mark Crutcher, and you're watching Life Talk.
And I'm Renee Hobbs. Thanks for joining us.
Okay, Renee, before we get started, because this is going to be a kind of a fun show compared to the one, especially compared to the one we had to do yesterday with the...
I think all week.
Yeah, we've had pretty downer shows.
Yes.
This is a good one.
Yeah.
Anyway, before we get started, you had an announcement you wanted to make.
I do. Corrine Michaels has been a supporter of Life Dynamics for a long time, and I just wanted to tell her happy birthday. Her birthday is
apparently
today, and she has actually opened up a donation Facebook page for anybody that gives her money. It comes to Life Dynamics, which is really awesome.
That's great.
Yeah,
she's been a I don't want to say fan, but she's followed us for years, and I think she went to a couple of events I did in Colorado. She's a really neat lady. Mm-hmm. And so I want to say happy birthday to you as well. I'm not going to ask what birthday this is. That always gets you in trouble when you do that. You know?
Right. I bet we're going to be flooded with birthdays now.
Yeah, we are.
That's okay.
Anyway, we all know that, and even the pro-aborts talk about this, the fact that one of the biggest changes in the pro-life, pro-abortion struggle in the last few years is that all the new people that are coming in, all the young people that are coming into our side.
Yes, they are.
And even the pro-aborts are saying, man, this is a major danger sign right here.
Right.
This is a red flag for us.
Yeah. Well, and that's why the feminists have risen. They're rising up, and they're trying to promote their agenda and
Right.
to try to get the young people on their side as looking cool and just being...
It's not working.
It's not working. Thank you,
It's
Lord.
not working. Even, like I said, even a lot of these people on the other side are openly stating, we got a major problem. Mm-hmm. And
Yes,
I remember
you do.
the guy that, you got problems you don't even know about, believe me. But you will know about them one day.
Yeah.
But anyway, I remember the grandson of Margaret Sanger, who started Planned Parenthood, and he works in Planned Parenthood, I think in New York. And he was talking not long ago about how when he goes to college campuses and speaks, that he hadn't been on a college campus in years that didn't have an active pro-life group, but he hadn't been on one in years that had an active pro-abortion group or pro-choice group, as he'd call it. And he said, this is an alarming situation.
That's why the colleges, there's riots and there's
Right.
so much going on at college campuses now. They're trying to shut us up and keep us out.
Trying to censor the pro-life message.
Yep.
And we want to talk about that. Before we do, though, I want to give everybody an update on our It's Just a Choice video, which apparently got us pulled down from Facebook the other day. It's going great, and you need to be showing this around. You can go to our website, lifedynamics.com, and it's on the front page of the website. This thing is making an impact. And
Yes, it is. Let's see how many more people can get pulled because of it.
Right.
But that's okay. We're making a statement.
Right. And I think what happened was a bunch of pro-aborts
Just complained.
complained to Facebook, and they pulled us down without ever even seeing what it was, because the next day they put us back up with no explanation or
Right.
anything. Just,
Yeah.
kind of like, uh-oh, you're back.
Yep.
Anyway, going back to this issue of what's driving younger people coming into the movement, I have some theories about it, and I wrote about some of them in my new book, Siege.
It's a very good book.
And I want to go over those, but before we do that, we want to bring in a guest that's joining us from Phoenix, Arizona, and she's in this younger group, and she goes out and speaks on this very subject.
She does.
And she's very involved in the issue of all these millennials and younger
Right.
people coming into the
Yeah,
pro-life
she just
movement.
started her own organization
Right.
called Let Life Live,
Right.
which is really cool.
Right, I think they started, told us in January. Or something
Yeah,
like that.
very new.
Are you there, Jamie?
Hi.
Well, thank you for joining us. We appreciate your being here so much.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for having me.
Listen, Jamie, I want to go over what I think. I think there are basically 4 overarching reasons or factors that are causing this explosion. And I want to go over those, or actually 3. I want to go over those while we have you on the line to get your thoughts on it. The first factor, I believe, is technology. We now have a generation of people who grew up after sonograms came on the scene. And I don't think you could find anybody in this country under 30 or 35 years old who hasn't seen a sonogram of an unborn child somewhere. They're using them in TV commercials now. Volvo had a commercial, Valvoline Oil had a commercial. There's been a bunch of commercials.
The Pampers and Huggies and
Doritos.
Doritos, yeah.
That Doritos ad, which is really
Yeah.
funny. So everybody has seen one. not only that, but a lot of kids, and not kids, but let's say people under 35, a lot of them have actual VHS tapes or DVDs of themselves as unborn children. And that makes it extremely difficult for the abortion lobby to come in there and say now to these people that have seen these sonograms and may have sonogram images of themselves to convince them that, oh, this is just a glob of cells, this is a bunch of tissue, and that's all it is. Do you see that as an issue also, Jamie?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, when abortion was legalized, there wasn't this instant access to ultrasound images or MRI scans, and nowadays we do have that technology, and it is so present in our lives, online, on TV, like you said, in TV commercials even. So we kind of have the knowledge now that maybe wasn't around, 40, 50 years ago.
I know.
When people were fighting for abortion.
And there's an ultrasound vehicles out in front of Planned Parenthoods, or close to Planned Parenthood, or any of
mobile crisis pregnancies.
Yeah,
basically.
Right. So yeah, that technology is very.
And some of them will actually give a sonogram on the spot.
Yes.
To the woman who's pregnant. I just show you a video of somebody else's.
Right.
But of your own baby.
Yeah, you can go in there and get an ultrasound of your baby.
Right.
Right then and there. Yeah.
It's very hard for that woman to then walk into that Planned Parenthood and have her pay one of those goons to have her baby butchered.
Yep.
So you do see that, Jamie, as a factor here.
Absolutely. Technology is a really good tool for the younger generations because it's such a part of our everyday life. We grew up with it, so it's not difficult when we need to Google something. It's on our phones, it's on our tablet. So we have all of this information right in our hands, and I think we're starting to really look at what's in front of us and seeing this information for ourselves and realizing that, oh yeah, maybe we need to rethink this whole choice thing because we have all of this
we've been
information
deceived
right in front of us saying otherwise.
We've been deceived all these years.
Right.
But and I think too, this technology thing, the one reason it scares our enemies so badly is because every piece of new technology that's come out since Roe versus Wade has supported our position. There's not been one single piece of technology come out, and there never will be one that comes out that supports the argument that the unborn child's just a glob of cells, because that argument's gone. They can't even begin to argue that.
Oh, no. It's out the window.
I think the future for technology scares them even more. I don't think we're very far away from the place where you can pop a unborn child up on the sonogram screen and send it to a 3D printer and have an actual model, not of a generic 10-week-old baby, but of your 10-week-old baby.
Yeah.
And if you have the ability to produce a 3D printer version of your unborn baby and you hand it to a woman, I think the chances of her aborting that baby just plummeted.
Yeah, and there was a story that that an employee had told us here yesterday about the image, the 3D printer that she had. She was blind, and she was able to feel her baby, feel his face on a 3D printer, which is really, really cool.
Really amazing. And
technology is awesome.
And I mean, we're looking at too. We've talked here on Life Talk about it before. Holograms. And there was a company in Germany. Now they caught a lot of flack from the pro-aborts in Europe, but they were saying they would be able to produce a hologram image off of a sonogram of a baby. So the woman would actually see her baby floating
up above her
outside her body,
her womb, and just watch it spinning. And
yeah,
oh my goodness, the baby turning upside, and the cute little heinies. Babies have the cutest little heinies ever. Sorry. Isn't it true, Jamie?
Okay. Yeah. Anyway, moving on. But I mean, this technology is not going to do anything but make it worse for our enemies.
Right.
So I think technology is a big factor. I think the second factor is that among people that are millennials in that age group, and younger people, and even younger than millennials, a big issue for them is their perception of something being unjust.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
If they see something that they perceive as an injustice, that really fires them up more than maybe other past generations have. And they're starting to see abortion as an injustice. They're seeing that reality more than their parents' generation might have. Do you see that as well, Jamie?
Absolutely. I know for myself that was a big issue. It's just not fair. And growing up, my mom called me Just Jamie or J for Justice. I wanted to like be a judge or something. It just drove me nuts when things weren't fair and weren't equal. And so for me, knowing like abortion really is an injustice, and it's one on a large scale, thousands a day, and it's just not fair. And I know that life isn't fair, but sometimes I just really just want to stop my feet and scream. It's really not fair, and that's a real big driver for me personally, because I think everyone should get a fair chance at life. What they make of it is their business, but give them a shot. Give them a shot. Give them a chance.
Well, and I actually take a personal offense to abortions, and I'm sure we all do, but it is the slaughter of our brothers and sisters in Christ and of our loved ones, and it isn't justified, and it isn't fair, like you say, and it's just, I don't know.
But there's a lot of things. There's a lot of things in the world that aren't fair.
No,
but this crosses a line.
This is
right.
This is the suspension of civilization, if you think about it.
Right.
Because it takes us backwards to the law of the jungle, survival of the fittest, the strong prey upon the weak.
Right.
That's what abortion is. And it is the suspension of civilization. That's precisely what it is.
Right. And there's people out there that should be here that aren't because of abortion. I mean, like Zentra said, I guess a long time ago, you can look around a room
and who's missing.
Wonder who's missing. Is your best friend missing?
Well, now that relates to what I see as the third factor here.
Yeah.
And that's what I call survivor syndrome. And you're right. When Zentra was my assistant years and years ago, we talked about that. She used to talk about it. I had never thought about it, but I didn't grow up at a time where my life there was a point in my life where it wasn't valued. I didn't grow up in that time.
Yeah.
I was born in 1948, so at that time, unborn children. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. I'm old as the hills, but anyway, you didn't even think there were people still alive that were born in 1948.
My kids call me dinosaur. I was born in the dinosaur age.
Neanderthal. Yeah.
Yes.
One time when my daughter was young, she asked me something about, well, back in the olden times, did so and so happen? Like, I was there with the dinosaurs.
Yeah, right. Really?
Right.
You're making me feel so old here.
But anyway, this survivor syndrome, I think, is very real because, like Zentra, and she was born in 73.
Yeah.
And she was telling me, I used to sit in my classroom and wonder who's missing. And was the guy that I might marry one day, is he gone? Is my best friend never here? Right. And she said, I'd look at empty desks in a classroom and wonder who was supposed to be sitting there. Mm-hmm. And I think the biggest issue there in this survivor syndrome is wondering about missing siblings. When you have a woman who has had abortions and then also had children that she allowed to be born alive rather than born dead, how do those children process that later in their lives? And I think that when they know that, my mom killed my brother or my sister, or maybe 2 or 3 of my brothers and sisters, who knows how many.
I mean, that's tough.
I think that has an impact on that child's relationship with that mother. I don't think it cannot have one. Do you see that, Jamie?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think siblings definitely have to work through recovery when they learn of a sibling being lost to abortion. It is a loss, and they will always have that kind of wondering of what would it have been like with an extra brother or sister around, and it does alter their perception of their mom because you get those questions of, well, what if I was in your stomach at that time, and would you have done that to me? Or how could you love your kids if you're going to do that? Or, you know, I've heard a lot of different sort of angry emotions, but those fade over time, I think, and then I think people hopefully come back to the compassion and forgiveness and understanding and try to move past it so that their family can try to recover as a unit. But it does impact, you know, everyone in the family, especially siblings. I know for myself, thankfully, my parents are both very pro-life, and I've never had to have that concern. But I would just, I don't know, be without my brother and sister. So the thought for me, thinking that, like, knowing, well, they could not be here if that's what my mom wanted, like, that just shakes me, and they're here. So I can't imagine if they weren't here knowing that, you know.
Also think about what's called selective reduction, where a woman is carrying twins or triplets, and they go in and they pick out one of the children and they kill that one and they let the other one or the other two live or whatever it might be. You're not going to tell me that if the child or the children that survive learn that they had a womb mate, they had somebody in the womb with them that was intentionally slaughtered, you're not going to tell me it doesn't affect them.
No, it does. It does, only if they're told the truth. I mean, some children don't ever learn of
If they never learn it, they don't, obviously. But, you know, I often think about Elvis Presley when I think about this. Most people may not know this, but Elvis Presley was a twin. He was one of a twin. And his twin brother died at birth. And the people that have followed Presley's life say that haunted him his entire life. And that wasn't an abortion. That was a naturally occurring phenomenon. His twin brother was stillborn.
It was still a sibling
But it was a sibling that was in the womb with him that didn't make it. And they say it affected him for the rest of his life. So I think the survivor syndrome is the third factor that is causing all these children to become pro-life, these younger people to become pro-life. I think the fourth factor is very interesting, and this is the place where I don't think many people have thought about, and that is changing demographics. And the bottom line is, while our enemies have been having abortions, we've been having babies.
Yeah, abortions don't grow up to vote, do they?
No, abortions don't grow up to vote, and they don't start pro-life organizations like Jamie. And this is having, I believe, a dramatic effect on our political system right now. And I think it's the reason that you're seeing exponentially more young people be pro-life than pro-abortion or pro-choice, because the ones that would have been pro-abortion or pro-choice were murdered.
That's right.
And
that's why Planned Parenthood and the pro-aborts they're doing all that they can to get the young people.
Absolutely. And there's an interesting thing is Northwestern University did a study they released in August of 2014 on this issue. And I'll just give you a couple of things that they found. Adults who label themselves pro-choice in America today have 27% fewer children than adults who label themselves pro-life. That is an enormous number, because when you start talking about demographic profiles of 320 million people, 0.5% or 0.25% can change things dramatically. Remember this, most elections in this country are won or lost by less than 3 or 4% of the vote. That's just a reality. So when you have 27% lower birth rate among one demographic group over another, that is enormous. The other thing that they found out was that even among pro-choice people who have children, those children are statistically more likely to reject their parents' views on abortion than are the parents of pro-life children.
And that has a whole lot to do with technology.
That has a lot to do with technology. I think these kids come along and say, Mom, Dad, how can you believe that when I can go in there and plug in a sonogram of me, and you still believe this? Well, the kids don't believe it. And the author's conclusion from this study, one of their conclusions was that the gap between the number of pro-life offspring is widening, and between pro-life and pro-choice offspring is widening, and it will become even wider in the future. And they're talking about just the math of it, not theory or anything, just the mathematics are that this gap is going to continue to widen, which is good for us.
Yes, it is.
And had you heard those statistics, Jamie?
Yes, it's so funny that you brought that up, because I was just talking about that maybe a week ago, and I was posting about that on social media and talking to some people about their opinions on it. But I just kind of had this thought, like, oh my gosh, the pro-choice community is literally dying off. Like,
right.
They're not reproducing, and they're not, like, those that they do reproduce, like you said, aren't really choosing to be pro-choice. So I'm like, if you look at this, it's going to take some time, but they're literally just dying off, whereas we're like replenishing and rebuilding and growing. And I had that same thought. I was like, wow, this is kind of, on the same side, it's sort of sad too, because it's like, I'm sure they're not reproducing as many children because they're aborting their children. So it does kind of,
well, like I said, they're having abortions, we're having babies.
Aspect.
Yeah, they're having abortions, we're having babies, and like you said, abortions don't grow up to vote.
Yeah. Right.
No,
right?
They don't.
And here's the problem for the pro-aborts on this particular issue. In order to correct this problem, they would have to start rejecting abortion in their personal lives while they're advocating abortion to the general public, right? Mm-hmm. And they're not going to do that.
They're not going to do that, no.
They can't afford to do that.
Right.
And even if they took that direction, if they started doing that today, if the pro-aborts had some kind of national convention and said, look, we've got to start having more babies, we've got to get out here and start doing this, it would take 20 years for that to have any effect, right?
Yeah, it would take a while.
It'd take at least 20 years before the kids that they might start trying to have right now would be old enough to vote and change these patterns. Even if they did accept their parents' views on abortion, even if they raised them to do that. So they've got major problems here. And I think there's a spiritual component here, or a scriptural component here. God said, I put before you life and death. Choose life, right? Which is what we did, which is what you did, it's what I did. All the people in the pro-life movement, we chose life. The people on the pro-abortion side chose death. They can't win, right?
They're not going to.
How could they?
Right.
They could not possibly win. They chose death. We chose life.
Right.
And I think the die is cast for them. But there's two things we need to take away from this lesson. I mean, from this information. One, what you've touched on a couple of times here today. This explains why the pro-aborts are right now having a full court press on the internet and on social media and on college campuses to lure in pro-life kids to become pro-aborts.
Right.
They're going after them viciously.
No, and they are very crafty with their words too,
Right.
and so they can lure these kids in.
And that's why Life Dynamics has got these new projects that we're doing, the Campus Project and some of the other videos that we're going to be producing and some of the stuff that we've got planned that is specifically designed to go after that generation, because if we don't support them and we don't educate them, we're going to lose them.
Right, and that's why Jamie has Let Life Live going out and speaking to the younger group as well,
Right.
to reach them.
But all of this information, basically, if you think about it for a minute, Jamie and Renee, is a mandate for the pro-life movement to educate and support this younger generation.
Yeah.
We don't have a choice about it.
Very important.
This is an opportunity that God has given us. It's an opportunity that won't be here forever, and it's an opportunity that won't come again. We better capitalize on it right now. And there's an old, my hobby back when I had a real life and did things other than this was studying World War II. And one of the things that you learned is what Patton used to say: wars are less often won by doing the most things right than they are lost by doing the most things wrong. And the worst thing we could do, the most wrong we could do right now, is to not capitalize on this opportunity with all these younger people coming on. That's the biggest wrong we could do at this time.
Yep.
And so we're going to do that. We've made a commitment to that, and I know that Jamie's made a commitment to it, and we want to applaud you for that, Jamie, and just to let you know, if there's anything we can do to help you, just
let us know.
Let us know.
Thank you. I really appreciate your support, and I totally agree. It's really vital that we, reach these younger generations and make sure that they stay on the path for life and give them the tools they need. And that's really what we want to do, is just, give people what they need to go out and fight for life. I can't be everywhere. I can't be at every protest and every event, but I can recruit people and I can give them the science they need, the connections they need, and the education they need.
Jamie, are you familiar with some of our Are you familiar with some of our materials like Lyme 5 or MAFA 21 or our interview with the 3 abortion clinic workers in Houston? Are you familiar with any of that material?
I by name, but I have definitely checked out your website. Actually, I think we reference your website on our website, actually.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what, after the show, we're going to put together a package of materials and send them to you. And we'd love to have your feedback once you've got this stuff and looked it over, because I'd like to work with you in the future on this project, because I think this is the make or break deal right here. We either fight right here or we're done.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. And these kids are hungry for it. They want to get information.
Right.
We don't want to be looked at as uneducated or, naive. So, I mean, I see these young kids who really want to be right and do the right thing. And, I was at a church a few weeks ago speaking, and I had girls, I think 14 and 15, coming up and asking if they could come to our next protest and be a part. And it was so cool because they have this fire in it. They just, need help getting all of that sort of harnessed and geared in the right direction. So
well, if you'll
I'm excited to help them do that.
If you'll promise me that you'll look this material over, we'll put together a box for you as soon as this show's over.
Yeah, absolutely.
Get it out to you. Well, listen, thank you for joining us today and taking your time out of your schedule to bring your insight into this. And maybe we'll be working with you together on some projects in the future.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Jamie.
that would be great. Thank you guys for having me on. Appreciate it.
Thank you for joining us.
Mm-hmm.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
It's pretty neat.
That is neat, yeah.
But the whole thing is neat.
Yeah.
This is God's hand right here.
Working in the pro-life movement and the young generation. And
right. He's saying, here, I'm giving you this opportunity.
Right.
Now you capitalize on it.
That's right.
And that's where we are.
That's what we're supposed to do.
And this opportunity is not going to be here long. And like I said, it's not going to come a second time. We better take advantage of it right now.
Yeah.
This is the make or break time as far as I can see.
Yeah.
This is something we need to be concentrating on. Anyway, do you have anything else?
No, just Felicia, I will get back with you after the show so we can discuss the topic that you want to talk about. So hang tight. And if anybody else has anything that they would like to discuss, if you want to private message me or send me an email, or just you can find me somewhere somehow.
Signal.
Yeah. Yep. And we can get that together and have a show on it.
Right. Again, thank you for joining us. Until next time, remember, Life Dynamics is not here to put up a good fight. We're here to win. Winning is how the killing stops. We'll see you Monday.
Y'all have a great 4th of July.